Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and I'm going to call this one FUDD Tools, and basically that's like the old school beliefs, old school applications of tools. FUDD is basically taken from like the Bugs Bunny Elmer Fudd cartoon, who represented maybe old school or out of touch, or not modern, not up to date. And in the case of Elmer Fudd, it had to do with how he dressed and how he hunted, going after Bugs Bunny. It was adopted by the gun community basically to mean somebody who was sort of out of date in understanding, maybe held on to beliefs that might have been true at one time, maybe never were, mostly focused on the lack of appreciation for new technology or new advancements in the field. So that was a FUDD, and I'm going to culturally appropriate it from the gun community, but then they culturally appropriated it from themselves and took it further out of technology or the skill set and into politics and constitutional law. But I'm going to leave that. Instead, let's go to FUDD Tools. So I've got 5 different categories, and these are things that I've run into over and over, and I have to be a little careful sometimes. I'm old enough to easily be a FUDD too, but so let's go ahead and start out with this one here. This is Stanley, the Power Lock 2. This is a tape measure. I think they're way, way better tape measures. I might get a lot of arguments from some of these, even who aren't FUDDs, but to me, when I see that, it's like probably habit. Stanley makes a lot of tape measures, but basically there are many, many better ones. In fact, this would be I would consider one of more state-of-the-art ones right now. I'll do a video on that, but maybe 20 years ago. But the technology of blades, the readability, the strength, the locking mechanisms, and I have broken a lot of these because they kind of shatter and crack when they hit the ground. In the old days, you used to get a new tape, a new spring, and you could put that in here. But to me, that's a FUDD tool. There's way better, higher performance ones for similar cost. Another FUDD tool might be that your arsenal is a pair of slip joint pliers, vice grips, and an adjustable wrench. And basically these things are incredibly useful, but if for each one there are very specific tools that can easily replace these depending on what you're doing. And many times we drill down to very specific fasteners and then use the appropriate tool for those. But a lot of folks just carry around these things and seem to be able to do about everything with it, and then they miss out on, say the plier wrench. Well, actually a lot of Knipex tools, but things that do what these can do, but much better. Obviously, each of these does have its own talents, but if that's the sum of your toolkit, and you're fine with it, and you don't need any of those newfangled tools, well, that's when the term FUDD kind of comes in. Another would be maybe the relationship between Snap On and Blue Point as one, that there's kind of an old belief that Blue Point is Snap On. Blue Point is not Snap On. Blue Point is Blue Point. It's owned by Snap On, and maybe warrantied like Snap On, but I sometimes run into used tools where they're Blue Points and they're being sold as Snap-ons. So that kind of is a FUDD thing. And a side note might mean that Snap-on is bizarrely expensive. It's out there. Only the pros use it. They're the choice of better mechanics. It's got status, and really kind of carrying that forward as a FUDD belief. Both ignoring a lot of other high-quality tool companies, but also giving the Snap-on brand either way more or way less than it deserves. Another, let's do, well, this is a double dip, Craftsman. Craftsman anything as being, a top tool brand, but also wood. Kind of like in the gun world, movement away from wood caused a lot of people to, question their existence and wonder if, what happened. I can understand that. I mean, I have a lot of wooden tools, like, mostly hammers and screwdriver handles and things like that, but I don't actively seek them out, and they do have a lot of problems, and I try to avoid wood on knife handles, and other places, but it seems like the movement away from wood is kind of a FUDD thing, and also the belief that maybe any of the fiberglass or steel or other materials used in handles are never going to be as good as wood. And that's kind of the closed-mindedness that can happen with FUDDom as well. It might also be with, the hammer heads. What about titanium? Or, what about dead blows, or all kinds of other things? It's just basically being fixed in whatever world you are part of or were part of, and then locking in or crystallizing your belief into the idea that that's the way it is and always should be. And there is really no reason to argue. And then maybe the last one, how about PPE? And this is not a FUDD includes the stuff, it's that FUDDs tend to, ignore the stuff. That they haven't lost an eye or a finger or a toe yet, so, they kind of take things for granted. Obviously, they didn't die of chemical exposure, so why wear gloves when you're working with, automotive fluids? I've heard things that I'd have to say are FUDDy, of people saying, yeah, it's really loud, using something, and maybe an air tool, or you're hammering, or, pounding on an anvil or something, that pretty soon you don't notice the noise. Basically you've damaged your hearing is what's going on. And I've heard the same thing, on the gun range, after a few shots you don't notice it. Yeah, right. And then the concept of using, safety glasses, they can be kind of in the way, or they're a hassle, or I forgot them, or I'll wear them when I think something might happen. So I think that the FUDD side can be the other side as well. But anyway, so those are 5. We've got the Snap-on Blue Point, we've got the Universal Tools, we've got the Wood and Craftsman, we've got the Stanley, and we've got the PPE. What else would fall under FUDD tools, or the concept of FUDD? Now, I do like to look for a lot of, the latest and greatest. It's kind of fun playing with that stuff, especially if you can get access to it. But in a lot of ways, there might also be safety in being a FUDD. It's certainly cheaper or less expensive. And, you're probably talking about, performance differences, or maybe fastener scarring as a big deal. I would guess most houses in America have been built with the Stanley tape measure. Most older cars were worked on with Craftsman tools. Most toolboxes contain these. And the whole Snap-on Blue Point, might have been self-inflicted, because it's really hard to find out, exactly what's going on and who makes what and where it's made. So in reality, maybe FUDDs are cool. They just aren't getting as caught up as we are. But the PPE thing, that's one, don't listen to your grandpa who didn't wear it. Let me know your FUDD tools. And with that, Doc out.